Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time stopping by. Today we are going to be doing a side-by-side flip through and just chat about the Dream Vision Tarot. This is the very original first edition, and this is the most recent Seed of Light edition that has come out just this year in 2025. I think this one came out, I don't know if there's a year on the box. I've had this one for a bit though, so we're going to compare the two, packaging, size, and every individual card. So if you're into that, then stay tuned. Before we jump into it though, just a quick note that if you are new here, hello, my name is Lisa. I am a YouTube content creator, obviously here in this space, but I also create tarot decks and I am an author. You can check out the graphic that I'm going to throw up on the screen to see some of my work that is out in the world. I will have links to everything down below. And my newest deck, Unicorn's Journey Oracle, is actually open for late pledges / pre-orders now, I think, or very, very soon if it's not open now. Like, I'm literally working on it around the time that I'm filming this video, so you should be able to late pledge. Otherwise, keep an eye out. You can look for my newsletter for when this is going to be more readily available, but this was successfully funded on Kickstarter in July, and that campaign concluded in early August, and here we are, just like trucking along. So very excited to see this out in the world in its final form. This is a prototype, so it's had a few little changes, but this is pretty close to the final thing. Very excited about this, so stay tuned for more about that. Now, let's talk about the Dream Vision Tarot. I love this deck. So I bought this very first version when it first came out, and I probably had some minor quibbles with it, but I freaking love this deck. It feels very powerful. I love the art style. I love the way that it feels very much like I'm in communication with spirit guides when I work with this. It feels like a connection to another realm or the divine, and I love that about this. There's something about the art that just, it grabs me. So this first edition came in a magnetic wraparound box, but it didn't open like all the way down at the bottom. It's got a ribbon lift out, and there was no guidebook. The inside of the box says, it's quite dark here, but it says, we fully awaken when we sleep. I think it says, close your eyes and see, let your dreams be your guide, maybe begin from within, I think is what that says. But it's quite, as you can see, it's quite dark. On camera, it actually brightens it a bit. It's easier to read the text, but in person, once we get out of this color swatch area, it's very difficult to read. That's one of those things that you don't know until you get your final version in. Colors tend to darken when they're printed, and it's just something that you learn as you go. But in any case, yes, this is the original Dream Vision Tarot, and this is what the backings look like. This one was pretty close to standard tarot size. I think it might still be a little narrower. Let me just compare it. My Unicorn's Journey Oracle is a standard tarot size. Oh no, yeah, it's pretty much the same. It's like maybe just a hair. Like it's just a hair different. But that could just be how I'm holding it. It's very, very slight. Maybe a total of like half a millimeter or something all the way around. Like it's very slight. So that is, I should keep this out so we can compare for the next version. So anyway, so this came with this gorgeous silver holographic edging. I like this kind of thing. It does make the cards a little bitey. The finish on the first edition was that sort of like, it's matte, but it's not like, it's slippy. It's like a little bit slidey. It doesn't like fan, it clumps a little. Let's see. Mine doesn't. Mine's pretty broken in. It's more like, I would say, like a UV coated matte. It doesn't feel grippy. It's got a decent shuffle. I'll shuffle. No, I can't shuffle it. What am I saying? It's in order. I just put the whole thing in order. Anyway, so that is the first edition. Now, the more recent Seed of Light edition comes in a 2-piece box. And the box is absolutely beautiful. I've got no gripe. It's got these tiny little rainbow holographic details on it. And this gorgeous design instead of a traditional thumb cutout. More of that holographic silver. It's absolutely beautiful. This will look gorgeous just like sitting on your table or on your shelf exactly as it is. It's got a rose petal finish on the box. The original edition box was just like a classic plain finish, like matte finish box. This is that beautiful rose petal finish. And then, I mean, like, look at the detailing on the box. It's absolutely gorgeous. The first edition did not come with a guidebook. Now, if I remember correctly, there was a digital, like something on the creator's website where you could read a little bit about the meanings of the cards, but it wasn't very comprehensive as I remember, but that's just me going on memory. In this new version, you do get a guidebook that gives you a good little like paragraph Oh no, actually the majors get like a full little page with essence, which is kind of like keywords, a planetary, its main archetypal energies. So like the high priestess is associated with the moon, the empress with the planet Venus, the Hierophant with Taurus, etc. So you get those. You get the essence, which is some keywords and a message. And then in the minors, you get like a paragraph, like half a page, and it does actually give you the decan association. So 3 of Swords is 10 to 20 degrees of Libra, Saturn in Libra. So that's very cool. I didn't realize that was actually in there. That's awesome. So you do get a little guidebook, and it's slim, but it does the job. Again, lots of these holographic silver foil details that just are so dreamy. Yes, Emma Zhang is the name of the creator of this deck. Inside the box, we have more of those foily details. I'm a sucker for silver holographic foil, but this version of the deck, this is what the backings look like. So again, side by side, they're quite different. The size is also different. So this is much narrower, you can see, than standard tarot, right? And if I hold it up against unicorn, yeah, same. It's the same. I guess I didn't need to keep that out. Beautiful rose petal finish on the cards, which I know some people are not going to like. I really like it, but it does take some breaking in to get it to shuffle like without clumping. It's going to clump a bit. It's not going to... Oh, actually, wait a minute. That's actually really impressive. I have had another rose petal that fanned like this, but it's not very common. Now I have shuffled this a bit, so it has been a little broken in, but that's not a bad fan. They don't seem to be really clumping, so it's a very elegant rose petal, but it is a rose petal. And again, not everybody likes that, but it feels really luxurious in the hand. It just isn't going to be as slip slidey as a different kind of finish. It's got this gorgeous vivid yellow edging, which very much matches the yellow on the back of the cards here. It's very striking. It is more comfortable to shuffle with a matte painted edge than with a metallic edge. And as far as the cardstock, this new cardstock, it just feels cozier to hold and to handle. I suspect that's more the rose petal than anything. The actual cardstock itself does not seem to be thicker necessarily. Might be a little bit because this rose petal is typically applied as a laminate, so it might add a little teeny bit of thickness to the deck. I suspect if we put these side by side, my original has a little bit of a bow in it. Yeah, it's going to sit about that many cards higher in the deck. And again, I suspect that's more from the lamination. I don't think the cardstock got any thicker, but lamination does add a little bit more thickness to the cards. I think that's it for the external details. We're going to zoom in and do a card by card comparison. Actually, before we do that, quick note. So one thing that I loved about the first edition was that there was some pretty clear color changes when you got through. So these are the majors, and you can see that the colors are a little bit darker and moodier. In general, this deck is darker and moodier than the new version. But you can see there's a lot more of like the sort of blacks and the really deep blues and golds and things like that. But when you get out of the majors, you do have a pretty strong color story. Kind of. The wands leaned more into these oranges and yellows, but there were exceptions. You can really see the color themes in the court cards. The cups had this like sea foamy green that kind of ran through, but again, there were exceptions. In the moodier cards, they did have moodier colors, right? And then in the swords, we had more of this kind of like gray blue sort of, I don't know, I'm really bad at naming colors, y'all, but that was the color theme for the swords. And then the pentacles, we got these pops of like gold and some greens, particularly in the quartz. And one of the things that Emma has done before we go into the card by card with the new Seeds of Light edition is really leaned into those color differentials. So look, when I found the deck out, like you can clearly see these are wands, these are cups, these are swords, and these are pentacles. And they maintain their color palette really nicely. The majors still do have more variety in their color palette, but you can hopefully see as I sort of fan them out, there's a lot of this sort of cerulean color, this like darker cerulean color that we see in the box here, running through the major arcana. So there was some color cohesion, I feel like, that was sort of perfected in this deck. Now, as a reader, I love this because I really love laying cards on the table and immediately being able to see what elements are dominant or missing. Like, is there a lot of earth? Is there a lot of water, fire, air, as well as the majors in the role that they play? So I really like when decks do this, like a lot. It doesn't always work in every single deck, but it's nice when it does. I will say the swords and the cups are similar enough in tone that it'll take you a second, but it's not they do still have a different color. It's just a little bit less obvious as like say between the Wands and the Pentacles, which are so vibrant in their color theming. So now, as far as the feeling when I shuffle it, this is much more comfortable for me to shuffle than this original one. This original one had a stiffness to it that I just, yeah, this has more flex. I don't know if you can see. This is really nerdy stuff here, guys, but you wanted a comparison, so this is what you get. Let me just show you from the side here. Do you see how it like kind of moves? Okay, and I'm going to try to do the same thing. It's definitely stiffer, slightly more cardboardy feeling in this one. I don't know if the core changed. I suspect not, but we can test actually. I don't think there's like suddenly a black core or something, but I'll do a quick test just in case. I've been surprised before. So let's just see. Yeah, no, it's still just a regular gray core because see, I can see the back design through the front. So this is just a regular art paper cardstock. It just so happens to feel like it has a little bit more bend. Some of that might be the laminate. The one thing I will say about UV coated matte cardstock, UV coating is a liquid coating that's applied to cards and then cured. Kind of like, think about like gel nails. You know how you have to put them under a UV light and cure them and they become quite hard because of the curing process? Well, this is like that. It has like a crispy sort of stiffness to it. It's a little bit of what actually makes it durable. It's a really nice coating. And again, I'm making that, like, I don't know if this was UV coated. It might not be. This might be just a classic matte coating. So it could be the difference between having that kind of a coating that is applied and dried or cured versus a laminate that might give it more of a softer, like flexible feel. I'm not 100% sure. But for me, I prefer the tactile feel of this. And yeah, I didn't have any trouble shuffling it when I used this in my member readings in July. And I guess I just assumed that the rose petal was quite grippy, but again, it actually fans pretty nicely for a rose petal. So back in the day, the first few decks that came out that had rose petal were so stiff and grippy and like clingy that they were almost impossible to get them back together once you shuffled them. This doesn't feel like that. Okay, that's probably enough of the nerdy cardstock details. Oh, one last thing, card design. So in the original, the titles were printed on the bottom in an off-colored, like an offset color text. In this, with the numbers up in the top. And that continued the whole way, I believe, through the deck. No, in the minors, they just appear down at the bottom. They don't name the suit because it's usually pretty obvious what suit you're in. That's never been a problem for me. So this is the 4 of Wands. There's 4 wands. So that's a thing. There was an edition that came out after this where the keywords, I think, were moved around the card, like kind of into the artwork in different, or not the keywords, but the titles were moved into different spots in the art. And that was a cool effect. It wasn't like, I didn't feel the need to get that edition. So I never had it or worked with it. Some of you may have, and that might be the edition you have, but the difference between the original first edition and this one is that on this one, the numbers and the titles are down at the bottom and they are in a holographic foil. And I will say that spot gloss and holographic foil pops really nicely against a true matte rose petal finish. And rose petal finish absorb all light. You will not get any reflect ever on a rose petal because it's got a little bit of texture. And so light cannot, it just can't reflect on it, which is a really nice feature if you have problems with glare and stuff. But anyway, okay, now we're gonna go through the cards. Oh my goodness. So there's been some subtle changes to this one, some colors that pop a little bit different, but for the most part, this looks pretty similar. I see some more detail in the clouds, like some refinement, but nothing major here. The Magician here has changed quite a bit, and here's where you're going to start to see, I think, a lot of the tonal shift. The Seeds of Light edition feels a lot more like light beings that you're looking at. Beings, again, from another dimension. Something I've always loved about this deck, but I feel like is done even better in this new edition. It feels more like that other dimension I'm peeking into, and it feels a little softer and more welcoming as a result. Some of these characters can look a little edgy, dark, or creepy, depending on your aesthetic. I never found them creepy or edgy, but like I can see how between the two, this feels much warm, much more inviting. You can see a lot more color in the background here, but the symbols have remained the same, and the general positioning and what's happening on the card has remained the same. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit more. I really like this new one. I wish we had kept this black and white veil, because I think that was really, really well done in the first edition. And we're missing that now. We do have a symbol for the sun here and a star, as well as maybe what's meant to be moon phases here in her earrings. She had that here on this side as well. We have moon, sun, star. We have her scroll is kind of what draws the eye in the new version. In this old version, it was much more mysterious. In the new version, I feel like in the Seed of Light version, my eye goes right to her scroll, like, what is she holding? And I'm like instantly curious about it. But we are missing, I think, that hint to that dark light duality that we get traditionally in, say, the dark and the light pillar in the Rider-Waite-Smith. I kind of wish that detail had stayed, but I do love both versions. I think if I had to pick, I might actually lean towards the former, but I do really love how this scroll glows with that sort of rainbow light. I love the glints of light on her veil as well. And in both, I love the lit up sort of pituitary third eye space. It's amazing. I've always loved this Empress. I think she's really, really beautiful. I think she's even more so here. I feel like it's a little zoomed out, more zoomed out. This is quite close up. It feels like she's cropped in a more mindful way here. That was probably, again, a tweak or a fix made in this edition. I love the rainbow lotus. I love the lotus in general. As a symbol on this card, I think it works really, really well. I love the glow within. Again, she looks cosmic. It doesn't look like we're looking at a human person, like pregnant with a human baby. You know what I mean? This feels like we're looking at cosmic, creative energy, like embodied in an energetic way. It's really cool. We also have the addition of her pearl crown up here. More flowers on her arms. We're missing the wheat, which is a symbol that I do like, but I see how it wasn't as necessary or as cohesive with this version, this sort of spirit being version. Here we have our Emperor. Again, very similar. We've added the sphere here. We've got the pauldron on the shoulder still. Again, we're a little bit more zoomed out than we were on the first, so it kind of matches in the same way that these two kind of match. We still have a ring on the finger. It's not red anymore, and we've changed the color tones here to be more cohesive with the rest of the deck. I liked the red. I think it popped, especially for the Aries association of the Emperor, but this still works pretty well for me as an Emperor. Some of you who feel strongly about some of the color themes, though, might not like the new edition as much simply because of that. So here we have the Hierophant. I like that they've softened some of this really strong sun-moon balance. We still have it here, but it feels like it's softened some. This literally feels like this could be like, these could be gods. These figures could be like literal gods from like a fantasy world almost. They feel like that. It's giving me that kind of vibe in this image especially. But here we have the Hierophant. I love how blooming from this third eye space, we sort of have this central figure sort of acting as that keeper of the wisdom and inviting you through what looks to be almost like a portal between the sun and the moon. There's sort of like an invitation to step away from duality in this image that I really like. Really cool. I've always loved this Lovers card. I'm glad it's been renamed from the Twins to the Lovers. I think the Twins, I don't know, doesn't hit the same for me. I really like this. I do like the color shifts. I just like in general the softer blues. The Chariot feels very much the same. I love the Cancer constellation in the center. There's very little for me to complain about here. I like that we have the dark and the light horse and the sort of harnessing opposing energies that we see. It just feels cohesive to me. I like it. Strength, I feel like mostly what we're seeing here is a color shift. I really liked this original coloring for Strength. I thought that was really pretty. But this also works. And again, it feels more immersive in this world that we're in, this cosmic light world. And it feels like it keeps us there better with the more cohesive color palette. The Hermit, I mean, these are both beautiful. But again, I am drawn to these colors. So that wins for me, but they're both gorgeous. We have the constellations up here on his hood. I am curious. Let's just see, because I wonder if... Is that the Virgo constellation? I think it is. It should be for the Hermit, right? Should be Virgo. Is Virgo for the Hermit? Yeah. Virgo. The Hermit's lantern signifies... I'm just wondering if they call out the constellation. No. But it's cool that it's there. And the thing is, it was here too, but I didn't spot it. And something about the color change makes it easier to spot those kinds of things. The wheel, I like that we've zoomed out a little and we can really see this sort of like movement in the wheel, this sort of spiraling that's happening. This like, that's pretty cool. Otherwise, no complaints. It works for me. The Wheel of Fortune is one of those cards that often gets a little bit less scenic and more symbolic, and that's fine. I'm used to that. Mostly just a color change here. I'm not spotting any obvious symbolic differences. Hanged Man, we've got some additional things happening. Here we had vines wrapping around our hanged one. Here we have sort of like these energetic cords, which is super interesting. We also have some more blooming coming out of the third eye, a little bit more obvious. That's really interesting. I would love to know more about this composition and why, because it almost looks like you could see the figure upright here as well as reversed, but I'm not sure if I'm just seeing that in the card or if that's intended. It's interesting. Death has remained very similar. Again, mostly just color tonal shifts here. Temperance. I do like these softer tones and secondary colors versus more, this feels more primary and like bold. I think this fits the vibe of Temperance better. I've always loved this Devil card because you have this cool optical illusion effect and it's maintained here even though the colors are different, but I think it's easier to see. And I think the addition of the eyes here have made it easier to see. In this one, you at first glance, it's just this devil figure in the foreground, right? But these are two faces chained and it's such a cool effect. I've always loved it. Here it's even more obvious because she's added like little eyes and little bits of blush on the cheeks, kind of little glow on the cheeks. So it's easier to see these two faces are also part of his profile, this devil's profile. It's a very cool image. And I think you can see, your eyes can shift forward or back to see both versions easier in this version. The coloring, this is probably more devil coloring if you want to get traditional, but again, this is more immersive, so I like it. I like the zoom out and that we can see this clear bolt of lightning shift here. It's a little bit more obvious what we're looking at versus here where we see the clouds and we see the light coming in, but it doesn't have that feeling of destruction as much as this does. This is also really highlighted to the point of contact right here. Draws your eye right there. I love that for the tower. Oh, this is interesting. We have a slightly higher and slightly lower. This makes sense when you think about the Rider-Waite-Smith and how one of the jugs is being poured down low and one is up a little bit higher. I like that little nod. But again, we're looking at a very cosmic image. I love that we get more of this figure here. Again, these all feel like they could be divinity embodied. I always really loved, and I'm still not sure to this day if this was truly intentional or if this was a making the best of a misprint because it's so synchronistic as to why not. But in the original version, the very first version, you could barely read the title, The Moon. It was all blurred out. And the number up here is also all blurred out as if the text was on a lower layer and the fuzziness was on a higher layer in the artwork. That's almost what it looks like. But I always loved that because the idea of the moon is that you're not quite sure what you're looking at. There's that obscurity you don't see. And so a little bit of that glow and that, what am I looking at? And the darkness in this card made so much sense to me. On that level where I was never 100,000% sure if it was full. I mean, I assumed it was intentional, but it was always that, what if it wasn't intentional? But also how cool for that to happen accidentally in your project on a card that means this. So either way, it was neat. You know what I mean? But I do have to say, I really like the new version. I like how the moon itself has that little hollow accent to it, which I don't think she's done. I don't think I've seen it on any of the other cards. So it's kind of a really cool little detail that draws your eye right here. Even though in the reflection, you can still go into this pool of water and you can still see the fuzziness and how it's hard to see what's happening. And there's mystery, but that is still true, which I like. Here we have the sun, mostly colors and a little bit more zoom out. Judgment. Here it was really obvious that this was like meant to be a horn. Here it feels like rays of light creating a call or a horn or even maybe a road. It almost reminds me a little bit of like a Mario Kart road. Is that like the geekiest thing ever to say? It's a little more ambiguous in a way that I think a lot of people might really appreciate because this almost looks like you're getting sucked up a vacuum. You know what I mean? Whereas this feels more like you're being called to this higher place. Really like that. And then the world. Oh man, I really like this new world a lot. It's interesting the way that she seems to be almost like linking arms with the universe. I don't know how to describe that. I don't know what that's meant to represent, but it's kind of tucking in around her elbows in such a way that I'm like, ooh, that's really cool. I like that we still have the important symbology here with this oval shape around her. I love that we see the alignment of chakras. I think that's really, really beautiful. We can really see the way her hearts are formed around the root. That's really gorgeous. I love that. Okay. That was the majors. I'll see if I can be quicker through the minors. Maybe, maybe not. We shall see. Here we have some added glow, a little more life in this ace. And now you'll really start to see the difference because, of course, the tones are staying consistently in this orangey, orange to gold, orange, pink, gold kind of set. This color palette stays consistent in the new version. So that's going to be the biggest change. I love that we can see this shadow stretched out here. I love that. This just feels like it has so much more life in it, more light and life. Again, mostly color shifts here, but this forms that structure in the 4. We see the conflict in the 5. I like these little points of light and the glow. I think it really just, I love light though. I love depictions of light. I love when light comes through in decks. It just does something to me. I don't know, but I love it. I want to see what she says about this 7 of Wands. This whole spinny wheel thingy was always one of mine that I was like, what exactly? Like, it's fine. So it says, this is Mars and Leo. You have the inner fortitude by standing up to opposition, asserting yourself and maintaining control despite challenges. Strongly protective and defensive of your ideas, you remain unwavering in your convictions. This card represents resilience and perseverance in the face of adversity. However, it also warns against the pitfalls of rigidity and stubbornness. So it's almost like there's this thing that's maybe difficult to wrangle, but you're keeping it wrangled. I don't know, man. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this particular card. Feel free to comment down below. What does that make you think of? This 8 of Wands feels very traditional, but again, just a lot more light and a consistent color palette on the right. I've always loved this. It feels like trying to stop a domino effect. And I love that. I like that we get the sun in this card as well. Whereas here, the focus was on the moon, which is so interesting. Here we have the 10 of Wands. Again, love that. I love this star up here. Our page, love her. She feels very much the same. I like that this looks more like a bubble. Our knight. I love the quartz in this deck. They feel very, again, this whole deck feels very spiritual to me. Queen of Wands, love that. Ooh, okay. This king feels a little bit more like combative, like he's kind of fighting. This one feels much more composed and centered and grounded, but fierce. I really like this change. All right, that's our wands. Now we're into cups. So we still have the dove bringing the wafer. I like this slightly more zoomed out view, and I love the color palette here. I've always adored this 2 of Cups. It's among one of my favorites. I love the moon and the sun bringing that balance. I do almost wish it had the golden light here of the sun, but this works better with the color palette. I just love the commingling but maintaining of individual identity that we see in that card. 3 of Cups. I do prefer that each one of these was different because it's something I always look for in the 3 of Cups. This works, but I would have preferred something to differentiate these 3 figures to make it really obvious that each contributes something different to the whole. And I think taking away these yellow bubbles makes sense because this could at first glance look a little like a coins card or a pentacles card. And because of the golden orbs we'll see in the pentacles suit. So it's probably a smart change to move those to a different shade. But I'm just a little bummed that these still look like they're all basically the same figure. Whereas here we had we had green and this orangey color and purple to sort of differentiate them. That's a personal preference thing though. It's just something I look for in my 3 of Cups. In the 4, I love it. It's beautiful. The 5. I don't think we lost the moodiness, even though the color tones, she was using this like really like colorless for a lot of the really difficult cards before. And while she's staying in the color palette, this still feels like it's just as emotive, just as sad, just as moody as it was before, I think. 6 of Cups, love it. Pretty much the same scene here. The 7 of Cups. Interesting with the color shift here. I feel like it's more obvious that each of these contains a slightly different mix of ingredients. So each one is a slightly different cocktail, so to speak, even though they're very similar, which I like. This 8 of Cups is great, actually. There's the addition of this hand that's almost like tossing these. I'm doing it with my hands as if you could understand what, like as if you could see me. But it's almost like she's like batting these cups off of her shoulder and putting them behind her, which I like. Love this 9 of Cups. I've always loved this figure here. Oh, that's quite a change for the 10. I liked the rainbow in the 10, but this could be at first glance look a little like a 2 if you're not seeing the cups here. So this is probably, we still have the rainbow. It's just more subtle and it's in this blue, pink, light blue, darker blue. Like it's so tonally similar. In the color palette, at first glance, it's easy to miss the rainbow. But again, I don't think it matters. Oh, I just realized the other distinguishing difference here. She does name the suits here, whereas here it just said 10. Here it does say 10 of Cups. I didn't realize that. Here's our page. Still love her so much. Here she was kind of hugging a fish. She is here too, but it's actually harder to see the fish she's hugging than it is here. Here's our knight. Very, very similar. We've got the additional bubbles showing up. A queen. I love that they're like underwater. It's great. And here she's got her cup, but it's sort of encased in this like kind of vase thing, the King of Cups. Sometimes I liked how close up they are. It's a minor thing, but all right. So that was our cup suit. Okay. And that brings us, what have I just done? Put away the other deck. Okay. So we're on to the swords. So the ace, the 2. I like this zoom out more. I like seeing the ribbons floating up here. I like that. I like the change. I like this one better too. It's so you can see these like little, what could be tears or raindrops coming off each sword that's sort of moving energetically through that heart. 4 of swords. 5. I like this so much better. This one was very difficult for me to understand. And I still struggle with what this is exactly showing. Like I know what the 5 of swords is, but it's very hard to understand visually what's happening in this card. If you know for a fact what this is, somebody told me once, I think, but it never stuck. I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to see here. I can tell that this hand is moving away 2 swords, I think, and that there's 3 sticking out, but other than that, I can't see what's happening here. So yeah, I'm really glad that she updated this card. I think this is more obvious that this person's feeling really defeated by the situation, overpowered. I love this 6 of swords, and I'm glad that it stayed essentially the same other than the color palette. I think it's really, really speaks to divine guidance and assistance out of a bad situation. This 7 of swords really highlights the duplicity, like the sort of two-facedness that we could be dealing with here. I think it's more potent here with the 3, and the single in the side sort of splitting the face. I think that's really cool. So some positive changes there. Constellation shows up top instead of down below. The 8 of swords. This is like a help me gesture, like we're drowning almost. 9 of swords. I like the change. Yeah, I'd say the vast majority of these. Ooh, the 10 of swords. I think this positioning makes more sense in this card. And it's like we're lying on a bed of nails almost. Interesting. I like that. Then we have our page. Our knight. Very, very similar. Our queen. I love the way she engages, and I like that this spot of light is here. The way that she's touching the tip of the sword, it has so much more impact in this version as opposed to this version because of that point of light there. Also, I like that there's way more swords creating this crown behind her because you're not going to, that's more than 10. So you're not going to be trying to think about, like, even though there's a title, things like that can sometimes throw you off and you're like, oh, wait, am I looking at the 5 of swords? No, this is the Queen of Swords. And that change, it may seem like a small thing, but I think it can make a big difference when you're just reading on the fly. Here we have the King of Swords. I've loved this character so much. Again, he's not afraid to engage with those sharp edges. Love that. Okay, so those are the swords. I don't often buy updated editions of decks because usually by the time an updated edition comes out, I'm super bonded with the original, but this is definitely one where I really, really feel like this is the way that I already work with this deck, and this sort of encompasses the energy, the way that I see it and interact with it. So it was such a no-brainer. We're into our coins or pentacles here. We have the 2. I love these greens and golds. I'm glad they took it through the whole suit. I love this collaborative sort of like almost like gears in a machine or cog kind of vibe there. Everything's interlocked and interconnected. Love the cling here. I love that we get these golden bracelets on her wrists. This 5 of Pentacles, that feeling of separation or being outside of, comes through. I like this 6 of Pentacles. Here we can actually see, we can't really see in this original version. It's very difficult. On camera, it's a little easier to see the figures reaching up for what this character has. But here you can really see them. You can really see them. So I think that was a really important change to make in that card. The 7 of Pentacles, very similar. Love it. We get a little bit of the angst that comes through with this energy. The 8, love it. Love the engraving. Love the focus. The 9, so lush. The Pentacles are so lush. The 10, I really, really like this update. I feel like it's a much more cohesive, like I understand what's happening here better. The Page. The Knight. Yeah, I'm glad that this almost looks like flesh tone, which doesn't fit these characters. I think it was meant to be metal, but here this works way better. You get the feeling like these are almost like the reins, like that control, that sense of like, I've got things well in hand. The way that this is tucked into his shoulder is so responsible and protective. These are very evocative of these archetypes. I just love this deck so much. The Queen of Pentacles. I love her little bunny friend that's popping in there. I feel like I noticed it more here, actually, which is so interesting. With the cohesive color vibe, you'd think it would pop more here, but I actually noticed it more here. And then we have our King of Pentacles. Again, we see more light, kind of glow coming off of things in the new version. All right, so that is our comparison between the first edition, the very first print run, because I got in on this on Kickstarter, very first print run of the Dream Vision Tarot, and the new, what is it called again? Seed of Light edition. I really love the change. I think it's really beautifully put together. It feels really high quality. I love the experience of working with them. I love these slightly narrower cards. It makes it really easy to work with and shuffle. And it just feels magical to work with this. I need to shuffle it, so I'm going to show you. I'm not going to shuffle the other one because I'm not keeping the other one. Did I just forget how to shuffle? What? Okay, hold on. There we go. I just, like, my brain just couldn't just then. Not bad for Rose Petal. Look how easy it slid. It went back together. Now, I did use this in a member reading, so it did get shuffled quite a bit for that. But, like, I feel like it's got bend. It feels comfortable. I do have to, like, nudge it a little to get it back together, but I don't feel like there's, like, clumping. Like, if you look at the mix. Like, it's a pretty even, nice mix. It's nice. Now, again, Rose Petal is one of those sort of divisive things. You either like it or you hate it kind of thing. I like it. It's not always practical, but in this deck, it's smooth enough that it still feels quite practical. And there are people who have gotten, like, fanning powders. So there's other tricks people have done to make decks glide better. I find that if you use a deck, it will smooth out some of that finish a bit. For some people, it's just like nails on a chalkboard, that Rose Petal. I think it's lovely. I love it. I use it on my decks, but not on the cards. I only use it on, like, my box, my guidebook. I like to give that Rose Petal to. Not the cards because I prefer a linen for myself, but this is so nice. And I think it fits the vibe of the deck. It's got that sort of soft effect on the artwork as it is. So feeling it as well as seeing it, it just, like, connects in your brain, I think, a little bit differently. Like, it feels like it should be a little bit soft to touch because of the quality of the artwork. Now, I believe Emma is also now working on an Alice in Wonderland inspired, themed, adjacent kind of deck. And I'm keeping an eye on that. I think her work is beautiful. I love this new edition. Highly recommend if you are drawn to it and you like the changes. I mean, it feels really special. And it read like a dream in my member readings. I had a great time with it. I'll talk more about that, or will have already talked more about that, depending on when you see this video, in my monthly deck reviews. But really, really, really enjoy. My old version is going to be going into my chopping block area to be reconsidered for declutter. But I am so happy with this. I have the perfect bag too. It's like the right tone, and it has those little astrological glyphs, which of course we see throughout this deck. So it really makes sense. And yeah, that is our comparison of the two decks. Thank you so much for hanging out. To everybody who requested this video, thank you so much for chiming in, so I knew you all would be interested in it. I love this deck. It was really fun to spend this quality time with it and with all of you. Thank you so, 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 so much. And an extra big thank you goes out to my Unicorn Fam channel members. Thank you so much for your support of my work here in such a tangible way. It makes such a huge difference. If you're watching this video and you enjoyed yourself here, please do hit that like button, subscribe, do all the YouTube-y things. It definitely sends a message to YouTube that you enjoy my content, and I genuinely appreciate that. But for now, I'm headed out. So until next time, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye!